Hello, I'm Prema, and welcome back to Your Best Kept Secret to Success. Or if you're new today, I'm so glad that you're here as well. When your identity shifts, the next question often becomes, what now? But moving too quickly before your energy, before your nervous system, and internal world sort of catch up to speed with where you've shifted to, it can leave you feeling more scattered than aligned. And especially in the energetic times we are in now, but this can happen at any time. This episode is about that sacred pause that comes after transformation, the space where your next level is taking shape. Like you can feel it, you can sense it, even if you don't fully see it yet. This is part of what goes on for us when our visibility codes are upgrading. So, how to make space for the next level without forcing action is one of the things I really want to decode with you today. And also, like how to hold this transition with trust, with self compassion, and with energetic alignment. So, we're going to dive into why integration is a vital part of the growth process. We have been talking in the last couple of episodes, that would be episodes 10 and 11, really about, the path shifting, what to do when the path is shifting, who we're becoming. And so now it's about like this integration piece. So the difference between momentum and urgency is something that's so important for us to understand, to feel, to sense, and to discern. Because momentum, like we all want momentum. We want to feel that forward momentum, things moving, things, us reaching our goals, attaining our dreams. And it feels good when things are happening. And then there's urgency. Like urgency is that internal pressure, like there is something we might miss out on. It brings on major FOMO. Urgency also is whenever there is a timeline and there's an end to something. The problem with urgency is that it tends to shut us down, and the intention of it is an ego-based way to speed us up or get us to do something. So we don't want to really move from urgency so much. We want to move from momentum, but sometimes urgency is upon us. So how do we deal with that? And especially in the energetic times that we're living in currently as I'm making this episode, but this urgency is going on all the time in one way or another. It's hitting you in your soul blueprint, depending on where the eclipse pattern is, for a 1.5 year period of time. And that urgency gets triggered at times. And then we're living in a culture that's really, I want to say, actually breeding a lot of urgency, which is fear is the precursor. So it's really important for us to, where we can manage that, where we have control, command over that, and that's within ourselves, to actually take that control, to take that command and lean into momentum. Or sometimes it is the space, the void, the space in between that will actually lead to more momentum. But we need to know how to navigate that space without rushing it. I've been here before, been here many times. I've navigated this space. And recently, I would say in this last year, I've had to navigate this space a few times just because of, my soul challenges, the way the energy is hitting me. And there have been times in this last year, I went ahead and jumped ahead into what I thought was momentum. And when I look back, it had a little bit of urgency mixed with it. Okay, no right, no wrong. I'm learning along the way too. But where I look back and there was a little bit of that urgency, I made some decisions to move forward with my work in the world in a particular way, enroll with a particular mentor, that looking back, I might have chose differently. And the biggest thing that I would have done is given myself a little bit more time. But then I firmly believe there are no mistakes. So in making those choices, even with a little bit of urgency, because it's going to happen to all of us, here's the key. Can we look back and get the wisdom from it? What did we learn from it? So what I learned from it is that to listen, just even more time, give more space, give more time to those whispers from my soul. Even though I'm in a deep practice around that daily, there are times when the energy in our soul blueprint is pulling us back from the world. And it's this dance between surrender and momentum, surrender and action. And it is a dance. So in that, it's all brought me to where I am now, and I'm grateful, and I wouldn't have changed anything because this was the windy road I needed to take in order to pick up some pieces of myself along the way. The soul does that. It takes us along a windy road sometimes where we could just say for someone else, oh, just do that thing, okay? Just stop dating that guy, okay? Go ahead and launch that thing in your business. Quit the job already. But it's not as easy as that when we're the one in it, because our soul is guiding us to understand more of ourselves, to open up to more of our own self-emergence. And to do that, sometimes we've got to take the long way around. We have to take the scenic tour. We've got to go over a few bumps and, get the flat tire on the side of the road and learn how to fix the spare. Sometimes we've got to go through that in order to, again, pick up pieces of ourselves that we've missed along the way. So anyway, I'm excited to dive into this deeper with you. And I want to remind you that we do take callers on the show. And if you want to call in live while the show is going on, it's 1-866-451-1451. That's on your screen somewhere. If you're watching this live, it's 1-866-451-1451. If you want to send me a question or a topic or a comment, then do so at askprema@solutionary, SOULUTIONARY.com. And that will be with the episode. You can just grab that email there. I always love to hear from you. In fact, we have a question from a listener that we'll get into in this episode as well. So the current astrology, we'll just take a couple of minutes to dive into this. Of course, I do my deeper updates for my group, my Sacred Wealth Mastery. For also on YouTube, you can get a free update on my channel. But I like you to touch in with the energetics of what's going on, because it does inspire our theme, even though our theme is not time bound by any means, because all the cycles we go through again and again, and they're relevant in lots of different ways. So we're in a cosmic window that invites reflection and not rushing through, although you may feel that pushy urgency, because Saturn in Vedic astrology, I'm a Vedic astrologer, that's the sidereal zodiac. Vedic astrology, we have Saturn just moved into Pisces. We just had an eclipse in Pisces, and Mercury is now direct in Pisces. Yay. And by the way, the transits, the energy is nothing to ever be afraid of. Mercury retrograde is not to be feared, and it's not to be blamed. It's just that anytime the weather is doing something a little differently, like we were having a huge rainstorm yesterday, raining sideways, I wasn't going to take my walk during that time. I didn't want to get pelted, and pushed across the street. So we may have to go about things differently, but astrology is never something to blame. It's really the cosmic weather, and to help you to understand the timings, the cycles of things. So Mercury is direct, but it's very close to the north node of the moon, Rahu, the great magician in the Sacred Wealth Code system. And I'm holding up the magician card. The magician is a master manifester, but it can swing either way with the energy. It could be, this great creation, but your subconscious could also be creating something you are not aware of that you don't really want. So we just need to really be very aligned and attuned during this time and watch out for urgency. Venus, our great connector, is also very close to the north node of the moon. It is retrograde still, very strong in Pisces. It's really bringing us to a lot of relationship awareness or issues, depending on how you're wired and what's going on for you. And it's a great time to be releasing aspects of your relationship that don't serve you. That doesn't mean you have to release the relationship, but really releasing aspects that don't serve you and who you are showing up as. It also is some pressure. So relationships are shifting and changing during this time. And if that is going on for you, do it from your heart. Be very truthful with yourself and with others, and keep tuning in for that navigational piece that you'll be given, that guidance you'll be given from your heart, and do your best to keep your heart open, and you will get all the lessons that you're meant to get through this transition. And the big one is we have Saturn has just moved into Pisces, and Saturn's going to be in Pisces for 2.5 years in Vedic astrology. And right now it'll be with the north node of the moon, Rahu, as well. And Saturn is our great organizer. Saturn likes a lot of structure. Saturn's a taskmaster. It's the bringer of karma. Saturn really wants us to walk a very truthful path, and it brings on consequences when we don't. For all of us, we're feeling this somewhere, and it's just started. And in its start, it's lining up with the magician, with Rahu, like all these planets are. So everything is amplified when it comes to these energies. And so there can be a lot of internal pressure and a lot of things sifting and sorting during this time. And it doesn't mean it's all falling away. Pisces is a sign where we surrender. But it's also a time where new things and new opportunities can be coming in. And in order to discern what's for you and what's not for you, it's going to be very useful for you to be in a very consistent practice of tuning in so that you're not looking outside of you for all the information. Tuning in. So that means your spiritual practice, and Saturn wants us to be in our spiritual practice, wants us to have that kind of devotion. And Pisces is a very devoted sign. Saturn's one of the most spiritual planets. It is wanting to remind us the world in front of our eyes is ephemeral. It's passing. The world behind our eyes is true and will be with us always. It's our eternal nature. So sometimes it trips us up in the world when we're off track, to get us to slow down, to remind us to look inside and what's really true. So I want to say over the next couple weeks especially, we need to get into May really, but over the next couple weeks especially, be very generous with yourself when it comes to the time that you need to calibrate your energy and to not overdo, to be generous with others, to be more tuned in to yourself, to your heart, to your soul, than into the chaos happening outside of you. And if you're having that feeling of, a lot of pressure, or your boundaries are being challenged, we'll do a whole episode on boundaries. Saturn really rules our boundaries. Then again, you want to take the sacred pause like we're diving into in this episode, because this can be like a confusing, pushy energy, or it can be really creative. And I want you to use it for the creativity. But where it feels like you're going to miss out on something, or you have to do it and you're alone doing it, or something is just so tenuous it might blow up in your face. All of these things are not to be pushed. And they may get pushed just by the circumstances of your soul path and others that you're collaborating with, like it or not. But take the time to tune in, pull back, and remember who you are. Get into your alignment. And we'll talk about some practices to do that. That's what's going to matter most. And take your time where you feel like you need that time, because there's a lot of creativity here too. And there's a lot that can emerge for you. So it's a very interesting time. We'll talk more about Saturn, the great organizer, as we move forward. It's going to be in this placement for 2.5 years. And you can think of it as like trying to create a structure on, a flowing river, moving water. And whatever Pisces rules in your chart personally, and if you're not sure what that is and you'd like to get a reading with me, the link is with this episode. Whatever that Pisces area of your chart is, that's where you're going to be called into new structures. So if it's the 7th house, that's what it is for me. It's around relationships and business. If it's your 2nd house, it's your wealth, your money, your values. If it's your 10th house, it's your business, your career. your work in the world. So these are the places we'll be sort of dissolving and surrendering some things and creating new structures. Saturn tends to be a minimalist, and it's going to be less is more is the equation. But for all of us, Pisces is a place of the divine, is a place of surrender, and it's incredibly intuitive. So that's where we can lean into our spiritual practices, because there's a lot that can come through for you in that. So even creating a new structure around, are you practicing? Do you have a spiritual practice? Is it time for you to get one? Do you have one and you say you have one, but you don't really ever sit down on that cushion and meditate? It's the time to restructure that. So just take a good look at it, and no beating ourselves up, but like, okay, what's going to help keep me in the best alignment possible? You have 100% control over that. That is one thing you do. So this is a very rich and potent time as we go into May of 2025. This energy will start to wane a bit, but it's going to be with us for a little while. Let's talk about our sacred pause here. And let's talk about the identity shifts that we've been going through, because we've all been going through some kind of identity shift. And making space for what's next is essential before we actually step into that space. And in order to make space, like the purpose of making space is so that we can integrate. It's not enough to know. We have to know how, and then we have to embody, which means living from our soul all the way down to the soles of our feet. And that's that embodiment piece. So when you evolve eternally, your external world doesn't always catch up instantly. So just reflect now. Where have you maybe shifted, but that relationship hasn't shifted, or that client hasn't shifted? What hasn't got up to speed for you? Maybe you've shifted in your branding, hasn't shifted, and it's not clear yet. The space between identities isn't stagnation, it's recalibration. If you treat it that way and you're not moving from the ego and allowing yourself to be in a bunch of fear about it, it's absolutely essential for building a life, for building a business who reflects who you truly are. It's this recalibration. And in order to do that, you have to give yourself time to be to be you and discover who you're being, and to honor what's coming through and be willing to try on something new and do it at a pace that's safe for you. So maybe you have a new message in your work in the world that's coming through. Maybe you've landed it but you haven't printed it, or you haven't made it public, so to speak. Maybe and you've got fear about doing that. Is it really the right thing? Am I too big for my britches here? Am I congruent with this? You need to live into it a bit yourself. And then also notice if there is a block in the way and something that's, keeping you from being able to fully embody that. But allow yourself to try it on without the external pressure. So some of the ways to do that would be, to just start speaking it casually, to maybe put it on, maybe it's not the banner on your website, but maybe you start to integrate that message into some of your messaging. You start to let the words come through you and let them start to have a life of their own. We have to allow the magic. If we want magic in our life, we've got to allow it. If we want grace and creativity and play, we have to allow it. So we have to get out of our own way in order to allow that flow. So as something new is emerging, and maybe you, again, fully haven't owned it yet, it's time to start to play with it. And if it is new for you, and maybe it's a new way that you're doing your work, maybe you are stepping out of your career and you're stepping into your own work in the world. This came from grace. This came from, this shift came from your deep intuition, from your soul guiding you. And there must have been some magic in the way it came through. because it was probably unexpected in some ways. Well, we want to continue to allow that magic. So let's not be so serious. That's Saturn. Saturn gets real serious about stuff. Let's not be so serious, because that squeezes the life force out of things. That squeezes the juice out. And juices and life force is what gave you what's new and what you're becoming. So if you've evolved, but your outer world hasn't caught up yet, or you feel the pressure to act, but your energy says not yet, this is where we need to take that moment and give ourselves more space. So how do you make that space for the next level without forcing action? Again, your spiritual practice, your practice of giving yourself time, whether it's meditation or journaling or walking in nature or all of the above, or deep, intimate conversations, it's really about taking the pressure off of what it's supposed to be and allowing it to emerge. We want to integrate because it's a vital part of our growth. And there's too many times for people, we come to a new awareness. How many times have you had an idea, you've come to an awareness, and you never brought it all the way down to the soles of your feet, because 5 years later, 10 years later, 3 years later, whatever it is, maybe you've come around there again, but still you haven't pushed the play button, the play button on it. So we want to let that integration start to happen and honor that void space without rushing through it. One of the big things that I see that gets in our way is we have an old story that we're attached to typically. We need to release the old identity before the new identity that we've stepped into has space to actually be. So in that pause, for you, it might be some rewriting the story. It may be just some nervous system regulation that you need to stop and breathe. So as you are starting to be in the new you and in the new iteration of what you're bringing to the world, your visibility codes, what you're saying, who you're being seen for, that you're able to calm that nervous system down, that part of you that's not anchored there yet. So I think it's important for us to have a couple of practices around this, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment, okay? Around flipping our stories and then calming that part of ourselves down so that we can get up to speed with ourselves. But I just want you to really notice, is there some area of your being that needs that pause right now? Have you already moved through the sacred pause? And that's fine if you have, and you're ready for, okay, but now how do I step into the next step? That's, again, the embodiment piece. Some of the things that I notice that people go through, I've gone through, my clients go through in this, is feeling like, in between chapters, and the what do I do is the big thing that comes up, the doing piece. But we have to come back to the being. Who are we being? And that's what we want to use the sacred space for. So we want to let go of our old identity, and we want to allow ourselves to be in the energy of what it is that we're bringing through. Who are we being? Sometimes you might feel like, okay, well, I've done the inner work, so why don't I feel clear yet? Embodiment sometimes lags insight, and clarity comes through stillness and safety. It doesn't come through speed. And safety is a big part of that. And that's why, again, we need to be safe in that sacred pause. And the clarity will come through. But if we're clarity doesn't come through by force. It's not something, it's more like we have to open a door. We can't push it through the door. And another big piece here that we often bump up against is feeling the pressure to act. But you know you're not ready. And again, that's again how you know that you're in the sacred pause, or you need to honor the sacred pause, because taking action too soon can create more misalignment. And momentum is really rooted in this energetic safety, in this place of allowing yourself to get up to speed with yourself. So let's talk about some of the ways that we get up to speed with ourselves. So first of all, I just want to say we need to breathe. And I know you've heard this a lot of times. And maybe you're saying, okay, yeah, Prema, I'm breathing every day. But are you really breathing? Paying attention to our breath. I personally do breath work every day. And breath work can simply be you putting your attention on your breath, because that will bring us into the present moment. And if you breathe more slowly and more deeply and more intentionally, you will immediately calm your nervous system down. You'll take that nervous system and let it settle. You know, like when you have a child that's really upset and you take a few moments, you hug that child, you put that child on your lap, and eventually the sobs stop and their breathing relaxes, and then they're calm, and then we can see things differently. Well, we have to do that with the parts of ourselves that we are maybe unintentionally forcing and pushing. Because when you are making this big shift, look, you have something big that you're here to give the world. Your gifts, your sacred wealth code is like a key that unlocks something in the world that only you can unlock, only you. Now, that could feel like a lot of pressure because it doesn't get unlocked unless you step into your gifts and you really align with your purpose and your soul blueprint. But I don't want it to sound like a lot of pressure. I want it to be this adventurous journey that you know that you have a path, you have a purpose, you have a reason for being, because we all want deeper fulfillment. We want that deeper meaning, that reason to put our feet on the floor in the morning. And not because we force ourselves to, because something is calling us. Something is calling us that only can come through us. We all have big work to do, and likely you've already done some, but now maybe your path is shifting, and it's time to be in a more authentic expression of that. And I know the word authenticity gets thrown around a lot, but that just means that the true you has something to say, something to be, something to do, something to give, a way to serve that only can come through the uniqueness of you. And there's no forcing and there's no pushing that can make that happen. And I don't want that to sound like this big thing to live up to, but more so something to continue to open the door to emerge as, to be curious about. It's like getting to know a new part of us every day, and to remember that we are this unique thread in this tapestry of life. We are a unique puzzle piece, and we are part of the whole. We do have a part to play. And without that recognition of just even the fact, even if we don't know what the next part is, that we have a part to play, again, that gives us reason to be here, to be present, to show up. And we all chose to be here at this particular time, and it's a very interesting time in the world. And we all have a part to play. So let's take some of the pressure off and allow the part of you to emerge in safety, because that realm of safety, that emotional safety, is going to allow you to emerge. If we don't have that, it's energetic safety. If we're looking outside ourselves for things to make us feel safe, we're not always going to find it. Yes, we can lock the front door. Well, there's different ways that we can create safety in our physical world. But then are we ever truly safe? Safety is a feeling, just like the essence of purpose has a feeling that drives it, like freedom or joy, deep fulfillment, whatever that might be. So let's just do a little work around rewriting our story for whatever's coming up in this sacred pause and in this new level you're stepping into. So it might be useful to have something to write with. And I want to invite you to take a moment and just take a few deep breaths. Now, if you are not driving and you have the opportunity, you can close your eyes. I invite you to. You close out 80% of the stimulation coming in when you close your eyes. So now we can be more in touch with our own feelings, our own thoughts, our own inner guidance. And if not, you can't close your eyes, that's okay. You can follow along. You can come back and do this also at a time when you can. So take a moment and tune in with your breath and just let your breath be long and slow for the next 3 breaths. Make it slower, make it a little longer. You'll shift your brain waves to the alpha state. You'll relax in, you'll open up, and more of you will be available to you. Now, take a deep breath in and out through your heart because your heart knows the way. And what I want to invite you to be aware of is in where you are shifting to, no matter where you are on that path, whether it's an inkling that there is something, or you have a sense of it, or you have a deep knowing of it. I want to invite you to notice what part of you, what belief, what old identity do you need to leave behind in order to step fully into who you're becoming? What do you, is it, the part of you that was recognized for something in particular, the part of you that's just the great doer, you're known for doing or taking care of other people, or you're the go-to? What part of you do you need to let go of? What identity seems to be in the way? It's like you've been holding hands with it for a long time, but in order to fully hold hands with who you're becoming, there's just no room for this part of you anymore. So whatever that is, whatever's come up for you, and I feel several things in the field, whether you're listening here now that this is energetically encoded, or whether you're listening to this as, off in the future, you're held in this moment. So what's the belief that's driving that old identity? Maybe you've already landed that. Maybe it's a particular fear. Maybe it has something to do with being good enough, or belonging, or being loved, or not being loved. And just notice what that old identity is, what that old belief is. Now, the energetic safety piece. That's an old story. It's a story that doesn't serve you anymore, or else it wouldn't feel like it's in your way. It's a story, it's a belief that was set up a long time ago, likely when you were very young. Maybe you even came in with it. It could be ancestral. That was to create safety, but it was an ego-based safety. And we want to create energetic safety. So first of all, we want to thank that part of you for holding this safety. And we want to take a moment to reassure it that it's done its job and that we are grateful. Yep, we're grateful for this, even if it's kept us stuck. Its intention and the way it was set up was to keep us safe. Safety often lives in our second chakra, our second energy center. That's right down below your belly button. You may even want to put your hand there. And we're going to take a moment just to release that and release that story, whatever that old story was. And now we want to bring in the part of you that you're becoming. And whether that's well-defined and you're just, you feel like that's just this well-known part of you now, the new level of freedom, or maybe it's the way you are serving or going to serve. Maybe it's a particular gift that's been activated in you, your amazing ability to communicate or inspire, and really connect with that part of you that you're becoming. And if it's just an inkling and a sense that it's there, that works too. And I want to invite you to invite both these parts of you into your heart, because these two parts of you have been living far away from one another. And we're going to invite both of these into your heart, just to integrate, to come back home to heart, to meet one another, and to be in the safest place possible, which is the field of your heart. And it's time to tell yourself a new story. So take a moment to see yourself, if you're visual, to feel yourself, or to internally narrate to yourself who you're becoming and why that is so wonderful for you, how that feels. The biggest part is how it feels. The why it's wonderful for you can get to the feeling. Is it a new sense of freedom? You just feel just more authentically you, and that's enlivening in some way. You feel inspired. It gives you a great sense of fulfillment or joy. Allow yourself to live into that new you and really identify that feeling that it gives you. And take a deep, full breath with that. And that feeling, you want to make that deep connection, is that feeling to who you're becoming. However that unfolds for you. And you also want to tune in to what's an inspired action you can take to be living more into who you're becoming. And we can just do that by how could we stay more connected with or have more of this feeling present. An inspired action is usually something you're going to do that'll help your state of being. So just tune into what that is. And take a deep, full breath with that. Make a commitment to that. The key here is staying in your heart and really identifying that energetic currency of the feeling state for who you're being, who you're becoming. Remind yourself that you're on your own path. And your own path has its own timing. And as you're ready, if you've closed your eyes, you can open them. If there's anything you want to write down, especially your inspired action, please do so. Please do so. I want to talk about a couple of the archetypes. The archetypes, these ones can really help support you to sort of normalize where you are, who you're becoming, and the pause in between. So the Great Nurturer, which is, I'm going to find my Great Nurturer here in my deck, which is one of the archetypes of the moon. And if you're not watching, I'll just describe this card a little bit. It's a mother deer with her fawn, and the mother deer looking down at that fawn. You can just feel the nurturing. The Great Nurturer is really about giving and receiving nourishment. So it creates that emotional and energetic safety. And this really comes down to that self-love. So really be careful of overextending to others before filling your own well, because then you won't have the space to create that energetic safety for yourself. And really honor your own becoming. Tend to your inner self before the things you need to do, so that you're really moving from a place of who you're becoming. So we'll give the mantra is I give and receive nourishment, but let's use the mantra of I nurture to become with love and presence, because you're nurturing your becoming with love and presence. And the other archetype I want to talk about here is the engineer, which is actually one of Mars's archetypes. Mars happens to be in Cancer as we speak, and it's in the sign of the Great Nurturer, actually. And this gift here is around creating some structure and like a pathway, long-term sort of building. And this is where we want to update our systems, our rituals, our schedule, our team, to match your next evolution. And watch out for, really leaning into the old systems that are burning you out. So you really want to watch that during this time. So you want to build foundations that match your evolution of who you're becoming. And that's really rooted, again, in your spiritual practice, in your rituals, but also in your schedule, like I said, in your team, who you're working with. There's a shift in the way of doing things. We can take a moment and do an oracle reading. Before I do, actually, I want to just take we have a question from, let's see if I can find that here, from last episode. So in episode 11, a question from a listener came in, and that is, I know I've outgrown the way I've been showing up, but I'm not sure what to do next. How do I hold the space between what was and what's next without losing momentum? Okay, we talked about that this whole episode. So this episode is perfect for the answer to that question. But I'm going to just tune into intuitively to this particular person, just their energetics, because I am an intuitive. And even though I'm not looking at their soul blueprint. And this person who's written in, here's what is coming through. Yeah, okay. Is that you have a big attachment to doing, and you've gotten a lot of recognition and a lot of value for that. And anyone else listening in, this is resonant for, just take it, okay? So you've got to flip your equation and give less energy to the doing, the old things that you have been doing, and give more energy to who you're becoming. That's how you don't lose momentum. And momentum starts energetically. It starts from the inside out. You do the practice that we did today and flip the script on something. We think that doing is momentum. And yes, it's part of momentum, but it starts with the energetics. It starts with alignment. It starts with intention. It starts with creating, consciously creating from the inside out, having a very clear vision, matching that with a very, high vibe emotion. And we can always do the energetics on something before we have the how-to steps. So lean less into the doing now, more into the creating from the inside out, using the feeling energy of who you're becoming and making sure that's informing your next steps. Momentum doesn't always mean forward motion. It means sometimes a deeper rooting in. So it's really important that we're not chasing what the world thinks is momentum. Okay. If you have a question, hold it in your heart, hold it in your mind. I am going to pull some cards here. And you can let the whole answer, the whole spread be your answer. You can also allow yourself to pick either card number 1 or card number 2 for your answer. Before we do that, I'm just going to remind you that a lot of what we've talked about today, this, around how our path is shifting, our visibility codes, as well as our purpose, our gifts, moving our passion, our work out into the world, making the big shift from what we were doing into what we're being called to doing, reevaluating and recalibrating success on our own terms. That's really guided by our own unique timing and our soul blueprint, is some of the things that we work with in Sacred Wealth Mastery. And if you want an invite and the exact plan we'll execute on together to create more wealth by leveraging your gifts in alignment with your soul purpose and moving in flow with divine timing as guided by your soul blueprint, your Vedic astrology chart, then send me an email at askprema@solutionary. The link is with the show episode here. And just send me an email that says invite or Sacred Wealth Mastery, and I will send you the details. Love to invite you. Okay, let's get right into this reading here. first card that we have come up, oops, here, I'm going to pull them both before we, okay, great. This is very interesting. So the first card that we have that came up is the Connector. This is Venus's card. And again, right now, Venus happens to be retrograde, very close to the north node of the moon, Rahu. And the Connector is the card of we are all one. We want to connect in. There is a lot of relationship energy that is up and has been up. Whenever you are tuning into this, know that this card reading is also energetically encoded for any time that you are tuning into this episode. And what I'm sensing here is that there is a more creative approach for you to be taking around relationship. There's sort of a there's binary decisions that are being considered. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Those are things we do need to know. And there's a lot of gray zone. Look, there's compromise in relationship. But what I'm really picking up on here is there is more creativity that can be brought in. And that means that we can do relationship in creative ways. Relationships are about connecting. It is about heart to heart. It is about bringing, more joy into your life. Yes, they also bring our karma and our soul challenges and help us to grow. But the primary reason for relationship is enjoyment. And so how can you take responsibility to be more creative to bring that into whatever relationship that you're considering? And that starts at home with you. And then bring that in, bring that juice, bring that energy to the relationship and see what shifts from there. The second card that's come in here is the Muse. This is another one of Venus's cards. So this is all about Venus right now. And this is I am inspired and I inspire. And so I love the Muse card. And the Muse, this is that energy of creativity, that energy of inspiration. But if you were looking at this picture, we've got this beautiful little fairy whispering in this elephant's ear. And it's hearing those whispers of the soul, which goes along very much what we've been talking about in the sacred pause, that we've got to be able to listen in and hear those whispers. So are you giving your self space and time to do that? Yes, absolutely, in meditation, in nature, but I'm also being shown that just that pause in between doing things, taking a moment to be intentional, get quiet, take a couple of breaths. There's messages all around you. There's inspiration all around you. Your guides want to speak to you. And so that they don't have to trip you up, allowing yourself to quiet down, which means turning off some of the distraction. I was going to listen to something that I had wanted to listen to this morning, which was going to definitely be soul food. I mean, it was something that would be great for my mind. And I heard this whisper, but then it was kind of loud, which was, no, I needed to be in the quiet. You know that we need about 4 hours of quiet a day. And when's the last time you got 4 hours of quiet? So in order to hear that in those internal whispers, you're being guided to give yourself more space as far as quiet time, less mental input, so you can hear your voice emerge. And maybe you're hearing it already, so you can start to capture some of those whispers, be more intimate with yourself for your own inspiration. So I'd love to hear, feel free to drop me an email, drop me a comment wherever you're seeing this, listening to this. I'd love to hear what's coming up for you today with this episode, what's coming up for you in this card reading. And just a couple of things in closing here. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here. And what part of you is still integrating? Use the journaling, use the process we did to flip your story, use breath work, give yourself, that pause, dive into your creativity. You do not need to rush the clarity, but if you are ready for help with your clarity, by all means, book a reading with me. You'll find the link here. If you have not taken the Sacred Wealth Code quiz, you'll get one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. And that link is here with the show. It's on my website, solutionary.com, SOULUTIONARY. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. I thank you so much. I appreciate you subscribing and sharing this wherever it's, you feel it would serve someone else. And if you're in that space in between who you've been and who you're becoming, just remember you don't need to prove your growth by performing it. Next week, we're going to talk about speaking into your message, your new identity that's coming, giving voice to it, again, which enhances your visibility codes as well. I'm Prema. I am so grateful that you're here. Again, if you would like an invite to Sacred Wealth Mastery and really be able to step into your next level of leveraging your wealth, your gifts, your soul purpose, all in flow with divine timing, send me an email. Invite at askprema@solutionary.com. All right, my loves, such a pleasure to be with you. I look forward to being with you again in our next episode.